855-9112.
What we're dealing here with right now is a man-made disaster.
The southern Sudan, where up to 500,000 people have starved to death and more are dying every day. Mozambique, where farm families like these, instead of raising food for others, are dying of starvation themselves. Good evening, I'm Ted Koppel, and this is Nightline. Man-made famine. Two countries where huge populations are starving to death, not just from natural causes, but because of civil war.
This is ABC News Nightline. Reporting from Washington, Ted Koppel.
In another 5 weeks, the rainy season begins in Sudan, and the roads and airstrips will become, for the most part, unusable. Last year in Sudan, more than 250,000 Sudanese starved to death. This year, the United Nations was hoping to move more than 20,000 tons of food and supplies from Kenya through Ethiopia into Sudan. Only today, however, a UN official in Nairobi, Kenya, reported that the Ethiopians have withdrawn their permission for the transshipment to take place. That's what's happening in northern Africa. In southern Africa, in Mozambique, 1 million more people are said to be in need of aid today than last year at this time. There, too, a bloody war is making a bad situation catastrophic. We'll take a look at both situations tonight, beginning with a report from Jim Hickey, who has just come out of Sudan.
The children suffer from severe malnutrition. Look at the eyes. You can see the hunger. This boy tries to feed his younger brother, who is almost too weak to eat. Each day, the children are given a bowl of Unimix, a combination of wheat, beans, and sugar. But even that meager meal is fed only to the 300 neediest children. There are 20,000 people in this Sudan refugee camp. The rest get just a handful of corn. That's all.
Because of the scarcity of food, there's a reduced ration to the point where people are only getting around 300 grams per person per day, and that is only barely enough to keep them alive.
The refugees are victims of a man-made famine, a 6-year-old civil war. 200,000 Sudanese have fled the fighting, coming here to the southern city of Juba, tripling its population. They talk of atrocities by both sides, by the army and by the rebels. These women say the SPLA, Sudanese rebels, burned their village, stole their crops. And this woman walked for days with her 1-year-old daughter, she says, to get here. The baby is not doing well.
She said there is sickness and at the same time there is hunger.
These refugees come from villages where they were self-sufficient. The Civil War has forced them into these camps where they have now become totally dependent on outside help for survival. Conditions here are horrible. Sanitation, non-existent. Flies by the millions. Juba is a government-held town surrounded by rebels. These people are trapped by an armed conflict in which food is a key weapon.
We need both sides, the Army and the SPLA, to go beyond the talking stage and demonstrate that people in town, 300,000 people in town, have the freedom to leave this town and go out to cultivate. That's the only answer.
There have been some talks of peace, and relief agencies are taking advantage, stepping up deliveries of food and medicine. It is still not enough. Children scramble to grab kernels of corn that fall off the trucks. The hungry can't afford to let anything go to waste.
Excuse me, please.
As a result of a partial ceasefire engineered by the United Nations, UNICEF, the UN Children's Fund, launched with great fanfare an ambitious $132 million food relief program.
And to look at this, Operation Lifeline Sudan. Good luck.
The operation's goal is to move massive amounts of food before the rainy season makes roads impassable next month.
This is
an operation unlikely to succeed, in the sense that even without the Civil War, never before in history have we tried to move such a massive tonnage, over 100,000 tons, in such a difficult logistical situation, starting almost from scratch to do it in 6 weeks.
Trucks that left Nairobi last week were to pre-position grain closer to the Sudanese border in northern Kenya. 1 week later, UN workers told ABC News the grain still has not been moved into Sudan. And critics say when it is moved, it'll be going into areas already served by private relief agencies. They complain that UNICEF put on a media show.
I think the UN has the greatest of intentions, but I would just admonish them that they need to really get more to the substance as opposed to the PR value of what this is all about.
Several non-government groups have been quietly trying to provide food as well as religious comfort to the Sudanese for years. For instance, Catholic Relief Services operates an airlift from Uganda jointly with the World Food Program, another arm of the UN. Relief workers know something that many of us may not, that even with just a handful of corn a day, there is life. And with life, there is hope.
I think that if one thinks of giving up hope, one is talking about allowing thousands of people to die, and we cannot allow that to happen.
This is Jim Hickey for Nightline in Juba, Sudan.
When we come back, we'll be joined live by two Americans just back from a fact-finding mission to Sudan and Ethiopia. Congressman Mickey Leland of Texas, chairman of the House Committee on Hunger, and Julia Taft, director of Foreign Disaster Assistance in the U.S. Agency for International Development.
Have attacked various convoys and impeded the flow of aircraft. The government of Sudan, while they have agreed to allow the safe passage of food, have not really implemented all the technical agreements that they agreed to do, and I think it's just a question of political will. We have to increase our pressure. But food is moving, though, from northern Sudan into the southern regions, from Uganda, from Kenya, and we are still going ahead with some cross-border efforts in Ethiopia. Of the 120,000 metric tons of food that the U.S. government has provided for this relief, 80,000 is either in Sudan or on the border areas, moving and ready to move. We're using planes. We have flights, daily flights by the Catholic Relief Service, by Church World Service, by the Lutherans, by ICRC, International Committee for the Red Cross, by AirServe. We're pre-positioning food from 4 different areas, by plane, by truck, by donkey. We're trying every way we can, but the tonnages that can get in by air are quite limited, so we really hope to have much more truck convoys that are flagged by the UN and allowed to go forward.
I've got to stop you, forgive me, because we've got another disaster area that we've got to talk about, and we don't want to give that short shrift. When we come back, the story of another African country where civil war and starvation have been virtually synonymous, Mozambique.
Well, you're fine. Anything else I can help you with?
My job. Oh, it's so lonely. No one to talk to, no calls, nothing. I'm just not needed.
What is it exactly you do again?
I'm the Maytag repairman.
Oh, at Maytag, all our washers and dryers are still built to last longer and need fewer repairs.
So, can you help me?
I'm a doctor, not a miracle worker.
Maytag. With dependability, people.
.177 horses give Comanche so much power, but it's the name Jeep that gives it so much pull. With 0% financing and special option packages, save up to $2,622 on select Comanches.
Why stuff yourself into someone else's idea of a bargain? When Dollar Rent-A-Car can put you in the lap of Cadillac luxury.
for just $39.95 a day. And that includes unlimited mileage. Discover the value of a $1 Cadillac at all major airports and hundreds of locations nationwide.
Personal computers are like a two-lane highway, which is fine until there's so much information, even important data, gets stuck. But you can have more lanes for information in your system right now with an IBM invention called microchannel in many IBM Personal System 2 computers. It's putting an end to roadblocks and speed limits, so you'll be going places faster today and down the road. When you're thinking ahead, you're thinking IBM Personal System 2.
Barbara Walters gives a quiz you can't afford to miss. We could be raising a generation ignorant of history, math, literature. See if you make the grade. Thursday.
The strip search tomorrow. When is it required, and should it be banned?
Also, the new Dr. Jekyll, Anthony Perkins, will be here on Good Morning America tomorrow.
Like Sudan, Mozambique in Southeast Africa has suffered years of civil war. But in Mozambique, there was at least some good news today. Word that the rebel faction has agreed to a month-long ceasefire to allow aid to get through for millions of starving people. It's good news, that is, if it's true. If not, as Richard Sergey tells us, the dying will continue.
The children at this church mission in Namahaka have known only famine and war.
These two children here have lost their entire families. They're the only ones left in their family.
These people are called dislocados, refugees forced to flee their peasant farms because of Mozambique's 13-year-old civil war. This mission is in the northern district of Memba, where 5,000 people have starved to death in the last 3 months. In fact, it's estimated that nearly half of Mozambique's 15 million people are facing starvation.
What we're dealing here with right now is a man-made disaster which is compounded by natural forces.
The natural forces, a 3-year drought. The man-made disaster, a guerrilla war against Mozambique's socialist government that has left 600,000 people dead. These children live in a village which was recently attacked by the right-wing guerrilla group known as Renamo. What food Renamo could not carry away, it destroyed, attempting to destabilize the country even further. This warehouse contained enough to feed 200,000 people for a month. Renamo has been accused of using brutality and torture.
They also take these children, many as small as this one here, to carry as many as 50 kilos on their heads.
The war has reduced a lush and fertile country to dependence on massive foreign aid for its survival. This emergency food convoy, the first in weeks, finally arrived in Namahaka. The refugees carried away what little they could. But the relief effort brings with it a danger, attacks by the rebel forces.
The soldiers of Renamo are just as hungry as the people we are trying to reach.
But for some of these hungry people, the food is too late. A local missionary says this woman, only 30 years old, is not expected to survive. This is Richard Sergey for Nightline in Southern Africa.
With us now in our New York studios is Oumarou Youssoufou, former ambassador to Mozambique from Niger, currently executive secretary of the Organization of African Unity, which represents 50 independent African nations. There is, when one looks at these reports, Mr. Ambassador, a sense of despair, because the world can respond to the need for food, it can respond to the need for material aid, but what can it do when, quite clearly, the last thing in the world that's going to make any difference here politically is pressure from the outside? They're not going to respond to pressure, are they?
No, they are not. What they will respond to is pressure from South Africa and from those elements in the United States that are of the same right-wing philosophy who are supporting Renamo. If the South Africans could be pressured into stopping all their support for Renamo, then that problem should find a solution, since they do not have any support in the interior of the country, and they're not doing anything to get that support. It's one of these situations which is very unusual and is unique in Africa, because Renamo has no political philosophy, they have no program, they have no intention of running the country, they are doing nothing to get the support of the general public, the populations. They kill, they destroy. The State Department came out with a report a few months ago in which they clearly show that they are just people who are there to kill and destroy and maim the innocent people in the rural areas.
Give us the benefit of your expertise, if you would. What are the similarities and differences between what's happening in Sudan and what's happening in Mozambique?
There's really no, the only similarity is that we have people who are starving and who are dying. In the case of Mozambique, as you said earlier, I was ambassador to Mozambique from my own country, and it's one of the most interesting countries in the continent. It's a beautiful country, it has a lot of resources, and it's very well organized. It's the one country where the vast majority of the people really believe in Frelimo, which led the country to independence. So they really do not have any support to speak about in the interior. And so that, you know, all they do is kill and destroy people. It's a very, very rich country, and it is a shame to see this country today reduced to receiving aid from abroad, whereas Mozambique is in a position to actually help the neighboring countries in case of drought. Because even in the case of the drought, this is a country which is very long, as you can see, very varied. It has a lot of variety of climates, and it has a potential, even if there is drought, to feed the rest of the country. In the Sudan, of course, we are dealing with an internal situation, and one would hope that soon there will be a political solution. But in the case of Mozambique, there is no political solution possible because Renamo doesn't have any political program. So with the independence of Namibia, which is coming soon, and with the changes hopefully taking place in South Africa, one would hope that Renamo will eventually lose its support, and that will be the end of Renamo.
How large a force is Renamo? How many troops do they have?
It's almost impossible to say. It's even difficult to find who their leaders are. They have all kinds of, you know, they shift from area to area. In this country, they pass by for being anti-communist, but that is completely out of the question because there is nothing anti-communist about their philosophy. They are anti-people if they are anti-anything. They're just anti the population. So we don't know how many they are. They are just, they kill, they destroy, and then they run away.
Mr. Ambassador, we have to take a break. When we continue our discussion, I'll be giving you a telephone number that you can call if you want to help in the relief effort. We'll do that when we come back in just a moment.
This couldn't wait until tomorrow. Look at this.
The world runs on fax.
How'd they messenger it so fast? They didn't.
And one network was made to run it.
This is the...
Is there any disagreement with the assessment of what's going on in Mozambique that Ambassador Youssoufou gave a moment ago?
None whatsoever. As a matter of fact, of 130 districts in Mozambique, 115 have been affected by this. The random terror in the insurgent movement of the Renamo strikes at all places in a random way. And does destroy and leave nothing for the people. They don't have a political agenda. It has made relief delivery extremely difficult. Many of our relief trucks that we've provided have gotten blown up. We have we in Mozambique, as in Sudan, are the major donors, and our private voluntary agencies are very active, and yet the insecurity has disrupted so much of the delivery system. In Mozambique, a third of the people are affected by this. In Sudan, we're talking about 10% of the people. So in terms of the total magnitude of human suffering, I think Mozambique certainly ranks one of the highest in the world. In Sudan, we have a major problem, obviously, that has been articulated. But the number of people we're talking about affected are 2 million, and we do think the pipeline will take care of many of those, because if the ceasefire and the corridors of tranquility survive the next month, we'll be able to pre-position enough food. We do not have any confidence at this point that there will be that kind of tranquility in Mozambique.
I've got to stop here at this point and thank you and Congressman Leland, Ambassador Youssoufou. I want to take the last few seconds that we have to tell you that there are a number of private American agencies providing relief in Sudan. For information on how you can help, there is an interaction hotline. The number, 1-800-ACT-NOW. That's ACT-NOW 1. That's 1-800-ACT-NOW 1. And you can call that number if you want to give some aid. That's our report for tonight. I'm Ted Koppel in Washington. For all of us here at ABC News, good night.
This has been Nightline.
This has been a presentation of ABC News, where more Americans get their news than from any other source.
This is ABC.